to Podcast This Escape, the podcast where we talk about the escape room that we escaped from in the previous episode of this podcast. We've just finished Tom's room to start season 9. Thank you, Tom. That was great.
Thank you for letting me run it for you.
So, look, that was a lot of fun going through that room. Do you, Danny, have any thoughts straight away, like coming out of that in terms of like noteworthy moments or cool fun stuff?
Ooh, which sorts of things? I thought the illustrations were bloody well done. Much more effort put into them than I ever consider doing. I like the numbers with the blank spaces. I like the toilet swinging open. I didn't see that one coming.
No, true.
Recently installed, doesn't fit with the other stuff. It makes sense, but
yeah, it was interesting trying to come up with everything. When I was designing this, like, especially with the photos and stuff, like, I was thinking, how could I make this different while still giving it the escape room feel?
Oh, it felt very escape room.
You know what I wanted to say more than a lot in a really weird way, and I can't really express why. It felt a lot like doing an actual escape room.
You're right.
And
it very much had that feel.
There is something about the tone of the notes that was like perfectly matching the exact tone of the types of notes that you find in real world escape rooms.
I wonder.
Something about I don't know what it was, but it really, maybe, I really don't know, but to me that felt so much like I can picture that like word for word. If I went to an escape room in Sydney now, I would find a note that reads exactly like that.
Yeah, it's fair enough. The one thing that I would not have seen in a real escape room that much, but I wish I did, it would make me feel really good, was that moment with trying to boil the kettle and having the lights go out, and so something was illuminated.
Great. I loved that. I love the way the toilet, the kettle...
I would love that so much in a real room.
Because it's great, because it's such a... And I wonder if this is a thing, right, for Americans that don't kind of get it because they don't have electric kettles, but that is like the classic... If something is going to trigger your fuse box... It's a kettle or a kettle and a microwave at the same time. Like, that'll just ruin it. Your kitchen will shut down your whole house.
There were sort of like two sides to it when I was designing this. So one was very much because I come from like a background of playing rooms, I very much wanted to come through I really wanted to have the feeling of the puzzles being linear. In that, you find one thing, which is another thing, which does another thing. I wanted it to feel like, as you said, like it would be an actual room somewhere that you could play. But then, on the other side of that, the second aspect is to an extent. I didn't want to overdo this, but one of the things I wanted to have a bit of was the idea of something being, slightly unbelievable. Sort of thing.
Fair enough.
It's like, the 3x3 grid in the back of the wardrobe, and having a key in the shower sort of thing. So having these sort of like slightly unbelievable side to it mixed with the linear side was something I very much wanted to capture.
I mean, that's great. That feels like kind of a really good point about these audio rooms in general, that you can do that. And so being able to achieve that, which I think you did very nicely, I love it. And actually being able to do that, unscrewing that shower head, that made me feel pretty happy.
We so should have thought of that earlier, because that's like, was so well clued.
But I'm glad that I didn't think of it right away. I'm glad that it had to be an aha moment later.
But especially because like the sequence that we found it was, here is a toilet. It has no water. Here is a sink. It has water. Here is a shower. It seems like it's going to have water, and then suddenly no water comes out. Could there be something? Like, it so clearly sets up, like, we did it in the perfect way to set up, okay, that has water, but something's blocked it. And I didn't think to look into what's blocked the shower.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we've talked a decent amount about our experience with it. I'll show you. Can you see my drawings, Billy? Maybe you can hold it up to the camera a little bit. I drew that, and if you can find the toilet paper that I drew, that is what I'm most proud of. Also, second most proud, maybe the car. I drew a big car. I don't know why my second page of notes is all left. I don't know how that happened.
That's just how it happens.
It's a weird amount of space to leave. But all right, do you have anything to say? Because otherwise, I just want to ask questions about the creation process.
Do I have anything else to say? Do I have anything to say? No, go ask some questions.
All right, yeah. So I feel like we've talked a little bit over time without you telling us actually anything about what was in the room, but you seem to have told us you did some pretty regular editing and changing of things as it goes. So what was your creation process to get it to this level?
So the final room, which you played through, was very different to the original thing. So initially there were 4 rooms in the entire thing. So initially there were 2 cells, an interrogation room and the staff room. So you went from one cell, you crawled through the toilet into the next cell. Initially, then you escaped from the second cell through the front door. You then got caught by a police officer and you were whisked away into the interrogation room. You then went from the interrogation room into the room where they have like the one-way mirror. You went into there and they had another door there into the staff room, and then you escaped from the staff room. Though in the playtests, whenever I playtested that specific room, they easily took over 2.5 hours to play through.
I believe we would have been the same. Yep.
Yeah, I think partially because there's so many rooms, but then also in themselves, I had like so many ciphers in there.
Ah, gotcha.
And I think, especially if you don't know ciphers, that would have easily upped it to maybe 4 hours or something because you had to like go through the internet. So when I play tested it a few times, I decided to cut it down, merge the 2 cells into one, get rid of half the most of the ciphers, and I very much want I tried to change it more from being, especially the cells, I guess more from being theoretical with knowing ciphers to being practical where you have to actually search things in the room.
Oh yeah. And that's definitely why I think why it took especially me a little bit of extra time, because remembering to do physical things is never my strength.
And it's also like I think it can be tough in an audio room. Not bad in an audio room, but like it's a thing you have to learn. Is
what your level of freedom is,
or what the level of searching is almost. Well, yeah.
That
freedom,
too, yeah.
But like some people when they run a room, you'll be able to say like, I search the table and be like, here is every single tiny detail. But sometimes it needs to be like, I look at the table. I look under the table. I look at the leg of the table. I look at the other leg of the table.
Yeah,
I look
so
underneath
it's
the
just
leg.
a thing that you've got to learn.
And sometimes you should do that, and you need to, right? Because searching is the puzzle, and sometimes searching is how you find the real puzzle, and so they just sort of give it to you. And it's hard to, you have to sort of learn how much you need to do that in this room. And I think once we started doing stuff like, wait a minute, okay, let's open up the shower head, or actually there's stuff on this section.
And yet I still shied away from using the crowbar at all.
Yes, true.
That made me nervous.
I think the bed is a good thing for that. I think beds are always great. I think because everybody wants to
search through a whole bed.
I think everybody thinks, I'm going to pull the covers up and search the bed. And whether or not that pays off, I think is a great way to teach whether or not it's something you should do.
At what level it is. Is it it's under the pillow? Is it that it's inside things? Or is it you got to lift up a whole goddamn mattress?
And I think for this, it's like we had to lift up the whole mattress. So it's like, okay, that
happened. Should have clued
and
in a
it paid
more.
off. So that should have really got us into let's do a thorough search.
That's fair. That was good theming there. Good puzzle teaching.
Because I think that works quite well.
I like the fact that it started out as 4 rooms but then narrowed down to 2, because it does mean that in future, if you ever want to do some polishing again, you can just have a room and a sequel.
Yeah, you could go. Exactly. Number 1 room is the cells. And the second session is the police capture and the all that sort of stuff. So you could do that really well as a 2-parter.
Yeah. Did we do anything that you didn't expect?
I think this was partially because I underprepared, but I think one of the things that you did is you talked to Dave longer than I thought you would.
That's always the way with NPCs. Oh god, it's a nightmare.
I think this was where my under preparation came into effect, because one of the things with audio rooms is that I've no idea what you're going to ask. So it's hard to prepare for that sort of thing. So, isn't it, initially, when I put Dave into the room, I initially thought he'd be like the sort of thing where instead of having a conversation with him, like, okay, like throughout the cell room, you just ask, does this mean anything to you? Or do you know anything about that? Rather than having a full-blown conversation.
Yeah. Oh, I did feel good about that as well, because knowing how to use an NPC, like, it can be a nightmare. It's really scary. But then, yeah, when we got that thing just talking about gangs and just going, Dave, you in a gang? And
yes, that was fun.
I had fun with that.
That was a nice moment.
But, yeah, NPCs, always terrifying. I think I said this at one point during the What Alice Found arc, that I used NPCs so much more than I could have ever prepared for. It was very scary. But no, I thought you handled it well. I love Dave.
And speaking of NPC, there was one thing I actually completely forgot about in the staff room, is that there was actually supposed to be another NPC, which was a sleeping police officer with a newspaper. And the second part of the clip with Tim Todson was supposed to be like one of the news articles or something, or like incorporated into. She actually had to like tiptoe around him, get his newspaper off him while not waking him up.
To an extent, I'm relieved, because I think I never would have used the crowbar if I'd known that. I would have been
That's true.
terrified.
Would have been way too loud.
Oh God, we short-circuited the room. That must have made noise.
Yeah. So you ran some playtests of these.
I also like the idea that he was there the entire time. We just were not paying attention.
So you ran some playtests of these, and I know you ran some with people who've been on this show before. Who did you run through this game before us?
Yeah, so of the older version that I mentioned, the one with 4 rooms, there were I did 2 playtests of those, and one was just with a couple of friends who have very little to none escape room experience or anything like that. But that was very much just so I could find out any obvious errors rather than changing the details. And then the second playtest I did of the original was with Errol and Amanda from the
Room Escape
podcast. That's the one. And that was very much where I started to redesign things and think about the idea of having full rooms, because I know, like, specifically on this podcast, a lot of the rooms you have are maybe an hour rather than 2.5.
Yeah,
true.
So doing that would have, a lot of what I changed was keeping in mind that I would only have maybe now around 45 minutes to an hour on here, which is why I got rid of the second cell. I got rid of most of the ciphers, and the interrogation cell as well. Just try and crap it.
Yeah. I hope we do get to see your other puzzles again in future. But yeah, I am relieved that it wasn't, because last time we did one that took 2.5 hours and was 6 or 7 rooms, Jen, I cried a little bit.
Funny you mentioned that, because actually Jen was, I think, actually the only person to test my revamped condensed.
Oh, cool.
And that was actually really useful, because again, I was surprised at how well it worked. And so it was really useful.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. There are a few things that, I know, we mentioned earlier, there was a thing that I felt like during the room you were maybe not 100% happy with, which was the Braille. That we sort of found the things in Braille. And if you don't know Braille, it was kind of, you just have to know the Braille.
Now, this is interesting because, yes, just having something in an actual escape room that requires the use of Braille, you definitely wouldn't want that. However, coming onto this show, I have no problem with that as a possibility. If I know who our guests are going to be and I suspect a certain level of knowledge from them, I may not put in optional clues. I have optional clues very much as a thing.
That is true.
Not often, but sometimes. Like for our last episode of What Alice Found with the Good Job Brain people, there were things like word puzzles, and I figured, no, they're not going to need extra clues on word puzzles. They do those all the time. Geography, I know they know geography. I don't need to tell them what countries they're choosing between here. I expect them to know countries just because I was aware of that going in. There was every possibility that one of us knew Braille.
That is true. I feel like a little while ago, one of us did know Braille.
No, I tried, but I learned the other one, Morse code.
Ah, of course.
I learned Morse code, and then I decided, great, I'm so good at this, I'm going to do Braille now. Oh my God, why is this so much harder?
It's true.
So I stopped there, and now I've forgotten all the Morse code too.
Yeah.
So like if I had automatically been given a list of Braille, but I knew Braille and wanted to flex those muscles a bit, I wouldn't have wanted to look at it. So that's why for this format, I am very okay with optional clues.
Yeah, I know. The main reason I put in like the optional clue is because I remember it must have been maybe this time last year. Scott Nicholson did a broadcast on Facebook, and I remember I asked in the chat, do you think that should be optional clues in case somebody doesn't know something? And he replied, yes, you should always have that sort of thing in, which is then why I put the clue into this, just in case. And also thinking about when these notes go live on the on the website to the wider audience, statistically very few people are going to know Braille. So
exactly, and you'd hate to have a moment where it's just like, I don't know Braille, so I guess that's it, the room's done, because there's no way to learn Braille.
Unless there is, and because I haven't gone into it, maybe there's a really logical thing behind it.
But just on those with what stuff we were given in this, I don't think
it would be very
tricky
for sure.
Learn how to use Braille, so you need the hint. So yeah, definitely something you have to have for this, right? Because otherwise, you just get these points where someone will get to a wall and just be like, oh well, sorry, you didn't know the trivia here, or you didn't know this random skill.
Exactly, you got to know your audience.
I wonder if you wanted to put Braille into this room in a really thematic way. So rather than just saying, oh, and also here's a Braille guide if you need it.
Which granted is...
Which you pretty much would do.
Somewhat thematic for this room. Where would you put it?
Where would you put a Braille guide in this room?
Yeah, Telmana, what do you reckon? If you had to hide the Braille somewhere in this room that felt appropriate, where do you reckon you'd put it?
I imagine it would go well on the notice board in the staff room next to all the staff rotors.
True, except we'd need it early enough. We needed the Braille to get to the staff room. So at this point, it'd have to be in the cell, I think.
Yeah, in the cell itself. I think
it's tough. There aren't as many things.
I think the first thing which comes to mind is that it would be a laminated sheet in the lunchbox under all the goo.
Of course, we haven't had anything in the goo yet.
Yes,
we
you
could
put it in the goo. And because then it can be a deliver, like, this might help from a person who's helping you out.
Yeah.
Like, we know that a guy's giving us information. He might say, this will help you in your escape. Search the goo to find it. I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
My thought is you'd have...
mirror fog.
You can put it in the mirror fog. I was also going on the basis of... you could have like a journal that's like Blind Willie's journal, and he's got a journal and this stuff written in Braille with translations.
Yeah, that's
actually you could
have Dave be blind.
You could have Dave be blind, or if you wanted to use the mirror, right? Because we didn't use the tap, and I'm assuming the tap therefore is just a reference to the tap in Alex's bathroom.
No, I reckon it was an indicator to be making us pay attention to water level, to how much water things have.
Okay, you're right. It also did help with the water, but I wonder if you could use the mirror, right? And you could say that on the mirror, it just says, like, across the top of the mirror, it just says, like, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just written on the mirror.
Oh, but then this...
But if you fog it up with fog, it overlays on those things. They're like Braille translations.
That's
so, like,
a
the
way
fog
to do
reveals
that.
the Braille translation of the letters. You could put it in there, and then you'd be like, oh, now I know Braille, and I can solve my Braille puzzle.
To put that in there. But yeah, you'd have to know beforehand how confident you believed your group was going to be with the whole Braille thing.
Well, yeah, but it's also like, if they can just do the Braille, then it's cool. They just don't notice the mirror thing. And if they find the mirror afterwards, they'll be like, that told us the Braille. But I feel smart because I knew it already.
Yeah, of course. But you say that before. They found it after you could do that. But I don't think that we found those dog tags until after we'd tried messing around with other stuff. I think
if we'd found the Braille, we'd been like, we don't need this.
Yeah, but then it stops being an optional clue.
That's true, I suppose.
Like, we're talking about how to put in an optional clue into this room. So that's where it gets tricky. So I have no problem with it being the way it was. Like, it's tricky unless you can just say, all right, wherever they haven't looked yet, that's where it's going to be. And that's really hard.
That is hard to do on the fly.
Did you notice in my notes the massive tunnel that I drew? So that's where the first room, that was initially a drawing of the first room, but I stuffed it up. So it is now just tunnel. And then it went down the page here and oh no, I've got to go to the east wall.
Ridiculous.
Also, I mentioned I did have a map of the rooms as well.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see that.
So
if that's
will
able to be shown.
So I'll put them in the show notes as well. I'll see if I can. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, lovely. Much as I want to force people to draw their own rooms as much as possible. Oh, that's so clear.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's such a good sink and shower. I see how that separates.
Oh, that makes so much. So in this in the actual map that you've drawn, the second room,
the kitchen and toilets have
there's like a divider between them. It's like
a denty sort of thing. So the room
it's not
doesn't
a
actually
fully
go there.
square room.
That's funny. I was picturing the toilets doing that, and then somehow the kitchen not doing that.
That makes so much more sense than doing a proper square. It's like almost like the left side is like a kind of a backward C worth of room. So they're going to have a north section for the kitchen, a south section for the toilet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Split. That does make a lot of sense.
Basically, I just wanted any way to divide the two rooms.
Yes,
yeah.
True.
Rather than having a kitchen with bathroom stalls in it. So
Yes,
where there's
that's
like
true.
a wall or something like that, it just seemed the right thing to do in terms of the design.
Yeah, perfect.
Fair. Worked really nicely.
I wondered, there was one other thing that we had a little bit of an issue doing, right? Which was that using of the crowbar to break open.
Oh, just to know what was breakable open.
Because there is that thing of like, you don't want to. It's like
we don't want to go smashy on everything.
Breaking in an escape room is so hard, right? You feel like you have to be clued into it because otherwise, like,
did all the playtesters know exactly what to crowbar right away?
I think. I mean, it's a sort of thing which isn't necessarily intuitive, and I think the problem is, especially with this room, and something with hindsight, I know probably isn't a good thing to do, is that there were a lot of padlocks with keys. And so people also like get into the mindset of saying, okay, we need a key. And so giving them a crowbar and expecting them to crowbar something with a key and a lock. So like breaking that pattern isn't their first idea.
That's true. And I think that was true with me. Even though you gave it the level of hinting of this lock is not the same as the other ones. This is not locked in the same manner as the normal stuff. And so a door like that is exactly where you would expect to see a crowbar, something where the lock is built into it.
I wonder if you could like be like, oh, and you see the cleaning cupboard is closed and it has a lock on it, right? Built into the door, it has a lock. Although you look closer at it and you notice that the lock seems like it probably won't open. There's a broken key inside that lock. The whole door has been marked as like out of order.
Well, now, would you want there as a broken key in there, or would you want to find a key at some point and try it and be horribly disappointed when it broke?
You could do, you'd be like, oh, there's a key sitting right next to the door. You try the door. Oh, the key breaks. The lock is now jammed. And you will not be able to get that thing unlocked. And then when you find the crowbar, you're like, haha, I'm going to open that bloody door.
Yeah, Tom, that's the problem with this room. We didn't feel punished enough for doing sensible things.
But I wonder if something like that could be a good way to make that feel like a moment that you're like, oh, yes, a crowbar. I'm going to open that bloody broken door.
That could throw it in our faces a bit more if we needed that. I like the subtlety of this one is different from the others, therefore you should think about it differently. It just didn't work on me as well.
I just don't know if I
I definitely would have thought of it. I definitely would have tried it. I don't know because, I got the crowbar and I immediately, I won't say it didn't jump into my head. I was just scared off trying it. It really was. It was just the escape room muted smashing instinct that I really think it just worried me. I wanted to be tempted into it a bit more.
And I think what I think is interesting as well is when you play an actual escape room in person, one of the things they say in the safety introduction briefing is a lot of the time you shouldn't need to use brute force.
Exactly.
And so throwing a crowbar into the mix into an audio one,
it's frightening.
It makes you debate, do I actually do it or not?
Exactly.
Going against instincts.
Yeah.
I also wonder, like, there's a thing that changed a little bit in the running of this room, which was that originally the box with the
Oh yeah, you mentioned that in at least some iterations, the directional lockbox is inside the cleaning cupboard.
Yeah, so it was interesting trying to think of on the fly for things, because as I think I mentioned, you were getting through the staff room relatively quickly, and
I'm surprised to hear that, but awesome.
At least I think probably slightly quicker. At least quicker than the playtests. And so I needed to essentially find a way to slow you down. So I don't know if I'll change it in the notes, but when we played it through, I moved the box from inside the cleaning cupboard to under the table, just so that you'd have to do more searching and you'd have to spend more time thinking, is there anywhere we haven't searched?
It also broke a tiny bit of the linearity to make us unsure exactly which one the next thing to focus on was. So yeah, that's
But I
fair.
wonder if keeping it in the cupboard, the way the notes are written,
would have made us more inclined to use the crowbar?
Because even at the end there, when we had a crowbar, we also had two separate things that we could have used a crowbar. Like, there was nothing that meant we couldn't have used the crowbar on that box compared to a door. It seems just as reasonable a choice to open the box with a crowbar as it is to open
though it's very easy to come up with reasons why it wouldn't work.
True, but I think maybe the fact that, like, if
we
it
had
was still
two possible
in the cupboard,
choices,
then it would have really narrowed down to, like, we have a crowbar, we have one thing to unlock. Wait a minute, can we just open that with a crowbar?
Possibly.
I wonder if that would have kind of funneled it down a little bit more.
There was definitely like a theme of twos going on in this room in terms of things to do and things that got paired up with each other. Like, there were a lot of moments where we had that. There was twice where we had a single key and we got to debate amongst ourselves which one we thought it was going to open.
Yep.
So I feel like the crowbar, it was a key in that regard, wasn't it?
I suppose so.
It fit.
I suppose so. Wonderful. Well, that was a lot of fun. I'm so glad we got you on to actually run it this time. And after the debacle of last
my
season.
debacle.
It's all right.
Yeah, I think this was a good, solid way to start the season. I'm feeling all right. Like I said at the start, I was feeling super nervous about getting back into this, but I'm excited now. I'm really happy to be playing again. So thank you so much, Tom. A great time.
Thank you for having me. I am part of the Discord, so if you want to say hello there, I am Tom the Giant, which I'm aware is a very old nickname. Goes back to when I was in high school, when I was taller than everyone else.
Yes, and for listeners at home, you can't see this, but Tom is 9 feet tall. He's massive. He's got his Skype camera on. We can't even see his face. It's just the middle of his chest because he's such a huge man. But yeah, if you want to chat with Tom, you want to talk about the room, go and talk about it on the Discord. Tom's always there saying,
he's part of the game design community.
So come on to the Escape This Podcast Discord. It's really the Consume This Media Discord. So there's links to that below, and you can say hi and chat with everybody and talk about the room.
Join us, be friends. Billy has recently exclusively told me that Discord is his favorite form of social media.
That's true. So thank you, Tom. That was wonderful to have you on. For people who are listening at home, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you enjoyed this post-show discussion. Obviously, you listen to the show, so thank you for listening. I believe at this point there may well be a Solve This Murder out as well.
It's getting there.
If it's not out, it will be soon. This is a week after. Yeah, it's definitely out. 100%. Solve This Murder.
Really?
Yeah, let's say. Is out now, so you can go and check out a new mystery over on our second show, Solve This Murder. Otherwise, if you want to help support the show and the things that we do, you can join and support us on Patreon. There's lots of fun bonuses. There is bonus episodes, 2-minute mysteries that we solve.
And so normally what we do on our Patreon is we have our own playtests that we do with each other. Obviously, we're not going to have that this season, having not done the playtest ourselves. So what we're doing now is we're going to be having a series of discussions and reworks of old rooms that are related to one of our fancy Patreon stretch goals, which was to release some of them in a proper fancy book format.
Yes.
So we're going to be going back through season 1, finding the rooms that are appropriate for a book format and totally redoing them, fixing them up from their stupid early Danny forms and turning them into something cool.
So if you want to hear them be part of that discussion and the planning and all the ideas and talking about old rooms and recapping and reminiscing on our long history.
Back
our
from before
history.
Podcast This Escape existed.
Then, that's a very good point. We'll be talking about rooms that we've never sort of dissected on air. Oh, that'll be fun. So, that'll be another bonus episode. Those will be fortnightly releases over on the Patreon for our $5 patrons. So you can check that out there. All right. Thank you again, Tom. Thank you, Danny, for playing with me. And thank you, everybody at home, for listening. Everybody say goodbye. Bye, everybody.